whistle! Dog whistle! Where are you, dog?
Right-wing support for the truckers in Canada has shown nothing but great and complete hypocrisy in this country. Right-wing supporters in the United States for the Canadian trucker convoy isn't about freedom or freedom of speech or anything like that. If it was, these Republicans would have consistently supported Black Lives Matter protests against state-sanctioned police violence. This is nothing more than another way for opportunistic politicians to rile people up and score cheap political points. Despite their usual reactionary knee-jerk reaction against any sort of public demonstrations regarding pretty much anything, any kind of social justice topic, the right wing in the United States has been tripping over itself to lavish praise upon the truckers and employ ridiculous hyperbolic language seeking to paint Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his government as the second coming of the Third Reich. Propagandist Tucker Carlson has likened Canadian actions to restore normalcy to their cities and dictatorial actions by, quoting him, crumbling regime. The admitted liar also called for a poll of small business owners to see how they feel about the truckers' protests, while failing to mention that poll after poll shows that a majority of Canadians oppose the protests and support both the vaccine mandates and various other public health measures meant to stop the spread of the violence. Piano Fox entertainment clown Jesse Waters said that Trudeau was, quoting him, getting his chance to play dictator. With leadership like that, it should be no surprise that Florida's far-right Republican Governor Ron DeSantis has been sending fundraising emails boasting of his support for the truckers. Former Miami-Dade Mayor Carlos Gimenez, now a U.S. Republican congressman, instituted a county-wide curfew during the Black Lives Matter protests in the summer of 2020. But now he is perfectly okay with protesters disrupting international trade and their extreme right-wingers. This is a tweet from him directly from Gimenez. Only in the liberal mainstream media can BLM burn down cities be considered fiery but mostly peaceful, and truckers protesting tyrannical mandates and results in martial law. The world is watching the truckers in Canada. If you're a proponent of freedom, you should be with them. Jesus Christ. Right. Statewide Florida elected official, Chief Financial Officer Jim Patrons, also put on a proclamation of support in which he is extra crazy with nuts on top for someone regulating the banking and insurance companies of America's third largest state, which he shared in a tweet capitaled, and I quote, "Florida stands with the truckers of Canada. May Trudeau's reparation come to an end." Another Republican who decided to weigh in on the protest is Ted Cruz, who claimed that the truckers were, quoting him, defending Canada, America, and standing up for freedom, as actual Canadians complained that the demonstrators were assaulting and harassing them. Now, Cruz is no stranger to hypocrisy, as he forcefully spoke out against the Black Lives Matter protests in the past, comparing them to the January 6th riots and asking what the FBI is doing to quoting him, counter this ongoing pattern of domestic terrorism and other instances of highly selective outrage over political demonstrations. Florida state Republican lawmakers who never want to miss out on a chance to participate in the idiotic right-wing outrage machine are being extra hypocritical, even for them, when it comes to their support for the Canadian truckers. In 2021, right-wing Sunshine State legislation passed HB 1 into law, a draconian proposal that criminalized large protests and especially banned the block of traffic by protesters under enhanced criminal penalties. It's such an extreme law that actually allows drivers to run over protesters without any civil liability, merely if they feel threatened. Nevertheless, free speed crusader and authoritarianism fanboy Governor DeSantis signed it into law. There are already laws in the books that criminalize rioting and violent behavior during public demonstrations. Republicans admitted that there has been no large-scale riots that made this necessary and that would not apply to the riots we are accustomed to seeing at the significant sporting events. When DeSantis and his Florida Republican cronies really wanted to do was punish and demoralize Black Lives Matter protesters who spoke out after the murder of George Floyd. This has never been more apparent than watching the Republican reactions to the trucker convoy protesting against common sense public health measures that have been wreaking havoc on Canadian cities, occupied Ottawa, and blocked the most important trade route between the United States and Canada. Never mind the protests by these truckers include extremists waving Confederate and even Nazi flags, and that residents of Ottawa and other cities have been affected by the disruption of their daily routines, and business has suffered substantial financial losses. Authorities from both the United States and Canada scrambled to restore commerce between the two countries after suffering millions of dollars in losses. However, Fox News and the right-wing Republicans like Ron DeSantis are clearly out of touch with actual Canadians and are using this issue to rile up their right-wing base in the United States. A recent leak of donation data from the trucker company Convoy from GiveSendGo.com shows that 55% of donations actually come from people within the United States. Republicans who champion the Canadian truckers' protests do not care about freedom or anything like that. They only care about their own political agenda and will use government power to censor anyone they disagree with. But it really is bothering me, the fact that all this is happening. Now, I'm not for one second applauding what happened in 2020. I'm not. But I understand why it happened. The entire nation saw George Floyd murdered by a police officer kneeling on his neck for over 19 minutes, killing him. And it's just an ongoing pattern as to what racism is doing to our country when it comes to police officers and unarmed black people. But what's going on in Canada is affecting this country. Republicans want to scream about inflation, but this is making things worse. They're not trying to help the situation. They're trying to take political advantage of the situation. And frankly, it's becoming more and more dangerous day after day. The hypocrisy needs to stop. It's not just about hypocrisy, it's about stupidity as well. During a recent segment of her show on Fox News, the right-wing talking head Janine Pirro launched an attack against President Joe Biden for failing to stop the 2020 riots and protests, and quoting her, create all kinds of problem and arson and criminal acts and police injured. But what she fails to realize is the fact, and I'm wondering who's going to tell her after the show is over, is that in the summer of 2020, when those riots actually happened, Joe Biden was a presidential candidate, not the president of the United States. That unfortunate honor was Donald John Trump. Now, I'm about to show you some very bad clips about her and when she says basically Biden should have done something, blah, 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 whatever.
Who is now going to listen to Biden? Biden now has the final word on what you should do if someone is protesting peacefully. Biden, the same guy who in the summer of 2020 decided that he would allow people to burn down, streets and businesses and create all kinds of problems.
Should somebody tell her that Biden wasn't present during the summer of 2020? Because I'm sure as hell not going to do it. And then she goes off on the Canadian Prime Minister, Eric Trudeau, and I have to say, it's pretty sick.
When they start going after people's money, understand these truckers work very hard. They are salt of the earth. And they are not people who have a lot of money. They can't afford to protest. They really can't. But they're all about freedom. They're the heroes that we loved when we needed all of those things delivered to us. Yep. Now you're marginalizing them. Now you're really teeing them off. They haven't done anything. There isn't any kind of problem other than than maybe somebody had a flag. Well, that's going to happen in any group. But I think that this is going to get worse before it gets better.
Wow. I really don't know if you're just a dumbass or you just are just going through the script or whatever it is, but this bitch is crazy. What's happening in Canada is wrong. Plain and simple. Plain and simple, it's just wrong. You want to complain about why Biden didn't do anything in 2020? He wasn't president in 2020, you moron. Trump was. So why didn't Trump do anything? You want to scream and hope and holler about what's going on in Canada. You want to support that. But you don't want to put the same burden on Donald Trump? That's how stupid you really are. Shame on you, Janine. But you're working for Fox News. You're a shill for Donald Trump. You might be his whore. You have no shame. CTP, know that you... Matter of fact, there's one more thing I should mention. I found out earlier today that Donald Trump, his son, and his daughter are going to have to testify under oath. Unfortunately, it's not a criminal trial, at least I'm not sure it is, but it's probably about the business practices. So, you're done, Trump. But I want to remind everybody about what Donald Trump said back in 2016, I think it was. He said that the mob takes the fifth if you're innocent. Why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? We already know you're going to take the fifth. We already know that your idiotic son and your doofus daughter is going to take the fifth. That means you're not innocent, Trump, which means you're going down hard. And I can't wait to see it. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.